Piracy, terrorism, disease, genocide. The most disturbing headlines in the world today seem to share something in common. Whether in Somalia, Sudan, Pakistan, or elsewhere, too often crises stem from a country too weak to control its own territory and protect and provide for its citizens. In other words, the world's weakest nations now pose some of the greatest global security threats. These shared global threats often prompt shared global reactions, but reactions aren't enough. We must figure out how to promote stronger states and prevent actions that destabilize others.
In recent years, it seems that we've had more security problems from failed states, from states that have been in trouble, than we have from strong states that have been an adversary to us in the traditional way.
Prevention is difficult because there is no glory or no recognition in prevention. When you are effectively preventing a crisis, nothing happens, right? And if nothing happens, you can't get credit for it. That's part of the problem. You can't even fundraise for it because nothing has happened. But prevention, indeed, is the best approach.
We need to get more of a multilateral approach and a multilateral consensus that this is an international threat, and we need to coordinate our policies among our allies. In the National Security Council, for example, don't have a directorate that deals with failing states or states at risk. We do have agencies working on this in the State Department and AID, but those are only part of the responses that should be developed. So we need to have a more systematic and a higher level attention and greater international cooperation.
At the international level, the United Nations is making this comprehensive approach to rebuilding states a centerpiece of its new Peacebuilding Commission. And the responsibility to protect doctrine spells out the obligations of both a well-functioning state and of the rest of the world to support state stability. Even countries many consider to be stable can descend into chaos. Case in point, Kenya. In the weeks following Kenya's disputed presidential election in December of 2007, the country's long-simmering ethnic and social tensions boiled over into violence. More than 1,000 people died in rioting and extrajudicial killings by police.
It wasn't just the election, but the election was the trigger. Sometimes countries just reach a tipping point where they expect change, and elections often are vehicles of change. And then when those elections are rigged or stolen, then of course people say, that's it, we have no other alternatives, and violence breaks out.
In Kenya, it was an election many voters presumed opposition leader Raila Odinga would win. Instead, after suspicious delays in the vote tally, incumbent President Mwai Kibaki declared victory. That ignited violence between the country's two largest ethnic groups, Kibaki's own Kikuyu tribe and Odinga's Luo. A mediation led by former UN Secretary General Kofi Annan helped end the violence with a tenuous power-sharing agreement. In retrospect, many consider it to be one of the first applications of the responsibility to protect principle, also known as R2P.
Here we had the first proper illustration of what an R2P effort could deliver. It did illustrate that, yes, political action can contribute successfully to contain a crisis, to save lives, and it was a successful illustration of what R2P really meant on the ground, by both African and Western actors working together. The belief that the system actually delivers fair result, that the electoral system is credible, is absolutely central to its stability, because it's an illustration of the population's capacity to, in fact, remove their leaders when they don't trust them anymore.
We managed to dismantle the former electoral commission and set up a new one in its place. We managed to put up a team to spearhead the process of constitutional review.
Still, many Kenyans are growing dissatisfied with the ruling coalition, which has failed to deliver promised reforms or hold those responsible for the violence accountable. Water shortages, land rights, and poverty threaten to pull Kenya apart once again. Nowhere are these problems more evident than in the Nairobi slum of Kibera.
Kibera is characterized by gross violation of human rights, ranging from right to housing, right to water, right to basic need like food, clothing. The future is still bleak. If you look at the biggest population, who are the youths, who do not also have employment, it is telling you that The youths are a time bomb.
We've not thought through enough about state fragility as a consequence of massive political change. These to me become tremendously important vulnerabilities for a place like Kenya, where the entire edifice could unravel because of the pressures that you have from the economic expectations people have, the grinding poverty in some of these areas, the inability of the state to fully control violence, and the inability of politicians to actually create compacts that hold and that allow them to direct the state in ways that assure stability and economic growth. So it's really problematic.
Of course, every case of a fragile or failed state is unique. This argues for a world with a full and flexible toolbox of response options and a strategic commitment to using them. More importantly, it means the world should be looking for ways to promote stronger states long before they are at risk of conflict, crisis, and failure.
Mithali hilo naweka njema yenye taaluma, haya yangu mkishika mtayafaidi vyema, kulona mawinuka